Hello everyone and welcome to the talk Rocksteady, Bedrock, Leeds Reggae Pioneers. This is a shortened special version of the talk which was originally given at Abbey House Museum in September 2021. Today we're going to be talking about the Bedrocks, the first homegrown reggae act to record in Britain. The Bedrocks were a six-piece soul, ska and reggae group formed in the Chapeltown area of Leeds around 1966. They were originally called the Bedrocks Sunshine Band, and their members were Trevor Wisdom on organ and vocals, Owen Wisdom on bass and vocals, William Hickson on lead guitar and vocals, Leroy Mills on trumpet, Paul Douglas on tenor saxophone, and Reginald Challenger on drums. All six members of the group were West Indian migrants who had come to England from various Caribbean islands. The Bedrocks Sunshine Band were just one of the black groups playing in Leeds at the time, but it was their unique style that made them stand out from the rest. They had what they called a running show, meaning once they started off, they never stopped. They'd go into one number to another without a break. The Bedrock Sunshine Band shortened their name to the Bedrocks in December 1967, and they turned professional around April 1968. They took on a local man named Stanley Shear as their manager and agent, and he began booking them gigs as far as Barnsley and even London. The Bedrocks played around the country for a year, and once they had played a venue, they were almost guaranteed a rebooking. So to travel the country, the band needed transport, and they bought an unused ambulance to take them from gig to gig, and a road manager, Ian Mosson, was hired to get the band around. Occasionally the band would perform with a singer who went by the name of Luke Prince. By October 1968, the group had built up a nationwide following. They made their TV debut on the BBC Two programme Colour Me Pop on the 9th of November 1968. It was during a gig at the Barnsley Town Hall that the Bedrocks were first spotted in the autumn of 1968. The band were then invited to play some gigs in London, and it was at one of these London gigs that Norman Smith of EMI Records heard the band, and he liked what he heard. But by the time Norman Smith had contacted the band, they had returned to Leeds. Norman asked the band to return to London and record a version of the Beatles song Obla Dee Obla Da. The Bedrocks agreed, but they had one problem. Their ambulance had broken down and they had no money. They had spent all their money during their last London visit. Not wanting to miss the opportunity, they managed to borrow £25 and hired a van to take them to London. They arrived in London, penniless, in late November 1968. No money meant no food, and the band went hungry for 2 days, and they slept on the floor of a club called the London Cavern, which they had been using to rehearse. After signing a contract with Columbia Records, the band's first recording session took place at EMI Studios in November 1968. The single Obla Dee Obla Da, backed with Lucy, was recorded, mixed, pressed and in the shops within 2 days, by which time the band had already travelled back to Leeds. Other artists had also recorded their own version of the Beatles song, and Melody Maker reported on what they dubbed the Beatles song Race. The Bedrock single received a lot of radio play and first appeared in the charts on 18th of December at number 34. It also received positive reviews in the music newspapers. On the official UK chart, the Bedrocks' debut single didn't chart higher than 20, and beginning in the second week of 1969, the single started slipping down the charts. By February, it had left the charts completely. However, the NME Top 30 from the 22nd of January 1969 shows the Bedrocks at number 17, their highest position. The success of Obla Oblada led the band to make several TV and radio appearances in late 1968 and early 1969. A black and white promo video was also filmed at Kirkgate Market in Leeds. Before the end of January, the Bedrocks had returned to EMI Studios to record their follow-up single, Lovedon Girls. The single's B-side, I've Got a Date, La La La, was written by the band's saxophone player Paul Douglas. It was released in the UK on the 7th of February 1969, and it was also the band's only release in America, released in March 1969. Unfortunately, a lack of airplay meant the single failed to chart. The Bedrocks continued to perform across the country, playing their hit single. On the 19th of April 1969, they performed at the opening night at the Penthouse Club in Scarborough. Photographs taken on that night provide us with some of the only images of the group on stage. By May 1969, the band were being managed by Garth Carwood, who was part of the Leeds-based Stanley Shear agency. In October 1969, the Bedrocks released their third single, a reggae cover version of Sam Cooke's 1960 song Wonderful World. The B-side, Before You Came, was again written by a band member. On this occasion it was written by bass player Trevor Wisdom. The single again received good reviews, and despite an appearance on BBC Radio the day of release, a lack of radio play meant the single went almost unnoticed. 1969 was without a doubt the peak of the Bedrocks' career. A series of events during the following year, however, would lead to the band's downfall. The first 2 months of 1970 were a tough time for the band. New Year's Eve saw them performing a gig at the Scene Around discotheque in Glossop. After the gig, the band members helped roadie Ian Mosson upload their equipment into the van. As the equipment was uploaded, a drunk driver crashed into the back of their stationary van, causing serious injuries to guitarist William Hickson. He was taken to hospital and his left leg was badly fractured. His right leg needed to be amputated below the knee. Later, the decision was made to amputate the left leg too. The story made national press, appearing in several newspapers the following day, and was later reported in the music papers. William stopped playing with the band while he recovered, and the band continued to travel the country without him. The band's bad luck continued into February. On the 22nd of February 1970, the group's van crashed in Aldershot. The band's driver, Ian Mossman, was taken to hospital with a broken leg. A mechanical breakdown led them to missing a gig later in the month, and in April a newspaper reviewer wrote, "The Bedrocks just can't escape bad luck." The Bedrocks' fourth single, Hit Me on the Head, was released on the 10th of April 1970. Backed with an almost instrumental reggae song, Musical Clowns, again written by Trevor Wisdom. The Bedrocks' fifth and last single, Stone Cold Dead in the Market, was released on the 17th of July 1970. The B-side was again written by a band member. On this occasion it was written by Leroy Mills and was called Every Night and Every Day. Again, the single failed to chart and the group never recorded again. The band remained popular and continued to perform live, making appearances across the country. An ad from October 1970 bills them as Britain's #1 soul and reggae group, stars of TV and radio, which is how they should always be remembered. The Bedrocks eventually broke up around 1972.